Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all of you. How are you doing guys? I hope you have had a profitable day so far and of course more profitable session in North American trading session hopefully. So as we get started for today's session, we will be considering the price moves which have been the mainstay of today's trend defining mechanisms. If we consider the price volatility, the dollar has traded on the weaker side throughout the European trading session. And now, as we are heading into the North American trading session, I think the major theme is likely to remain unchanged. So all we have to do is keep looking for the opportunities to go short in the dollar, or for that matter, you can take a long position in any of the major currency against the dollar, provided it is having a favorable risk reward ratio, so that we don't have to take too much risk while we want to make money in the market. So let us now head to the JForex 4, the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. There was this new feature added to the platform recently, this hot list. So in this list you get these stocks which are buzzing. So if there is increased volatility in any particular stocks, if it is seeing increased buying or selling with higher volume, that stocks is picked up and it is included under this hot list. So you get to know the action as it is unfolding, and if you find that particular move reliable enough, you can even go for the trade. So that's the very purpose of this new added feature. Now let's start our day with a look on the currency segment. If we consider the price move so far for the Euro USD, it has continued to gain with this deep witnessed just a couple of hours back, but all that decline has now been reversed, and we have the Euro USD again climbing on the higher side. So we are seeing these sharp moves on both the sides, but the larger trend has been bullish for last couple of days. So the same theme is holding well in today's session also. In yesterday's session, I had talked about this formation of higher highs and higher lows for the Euro USD. After my session closed, I think for some time the Euro USD continued to rise, but then this sharp decline happened, which was only in case of the euro. Other major currencies were not really seeing this selling, and we saw the continuation of the upward momentum. And same thing has now been unfolding in the Euro USD as well. Today also, the euro is a laggard of the pack. It is not seeing increased momentum on the buy side. It is of course bullish, but it is not strongly bullish. If we look at the other major currencies, GBP in particular, in yesterday's session also, GBP was the leader of the pack. It was rising substantially, and same thing can be said in today's session also. So here we have the strong rise above this prior swing highs for the GBP, and it seems like it is pretty much likely to go towards 1.25 range in coming days, but that is some distance away. We will be focusing particularly on the intraday opportunities and how we can take advantage of this unfolding situation. So for that, the relative strength and weakness is going to play a major important role in defining the opportunities. So whenever we feel like going short on the dollar, I think GBP USD is one currency instrument where you can keep an eye on for the buy on dips strategy, buy on dips trade to be taken whenever the risk reward ratio is favorable enough. Now, if we look at the timeline of the GBP's low and the high formation, this swing low had come in during the Asian trading session, and since then the GBP hasn't really looked back. It has continued to go in this bullish momentum with slight decline, but most of these declines have been relatively shallow, and again it has continued to climb higher. This time around also it seems to be doing the same thing, but of course we also have to pay attention to the consolidation, the requirement of a due consolidation, and then it should start to climb higher again. Now we if we compare the EURUSD chart and the GBPUSD chart, we get this analysis which is providing us the criterion of the timeline. So in that timeline, we have the GBP leading the rise. So I think even though the Euro USD is also bullish against the dollar, we will do well to keep our eyes on the GBP compared to the Euro for any buy trade to be taken in next couple of hours, as the US session is likely it is going to get underway in half an hour, and we are likely to see increased volatility. In that context, I think we will be in better position if we are long in the GBP compared to the long trade in Euro. In Euro, we will have to keep an eye on this immediate swing low now, as these swing low formed during this recent correction. So as long as that holds, we still have the possibility of Euro climbing higher again. Now, as we have the GBP on the leading side, we also have to consider other major currencies and what's the story therein. The AUD seems to be leading the euro in its rise, but it is apparently not as strong as we are seeing the case of the GBP. So we have to place the AUD behind the GBP in terms of this relative momentum, the relative bullishness, which is of course more favorable for the GBP. So in these three major currencies trading against the dollar, the trajectory is similar, but the euro is the weakest while the GBP is the strongest. Simply looking at the timeline as well as the magnitude of the moves, we get this analysis where we have the correlational aspect in mind. And compared to the NZAUD, the NZD is looking even better. Let's change it to hourly time frame. Yes, for the NZD, the correction have been even shallower, and I think it is rivaling the GBP in its upward momentum. If we look at the magnitude of gains for the NZD, it is substantial and almost around 1 percentage point. GBP, I think it is more for the GBP. So in magnitude, the GBP's increase is more, so we have to put the NZD behind it, but it is better placed compared to the AUD, as we have these shallower corrections in case of NZD, while for AUD the corrections have been little more deeper, but still much better placed compared to the euro. So we have these four currencies, major currencies in fray, and all the major currencies so far we have seen are looking bullish against the dollar. So the same tactic will have to be applied, but as we have the GBP to be the leader of the pack, we will do well to give it first preference for any trade to be taken in the hope of continuation of the trend. But whenever we will see the signs of reversal happening, then we will have to change the scale, and in that scenario the euro should be the first choice, as it is the one with the weakest bullish momentum. The bullish momentum it is, but relatively speaking it is weakest of the all major currencies which we have seen so far. Now we will have to invert the charting and look at these USDCAD, USDCHF and USDJPY. CAD is actually looking much more weaker than the euro as well here. Earlier in the day it was also appreciating against the dollar, but after this 10 GMT it has seemingly gone into a consolidation phase with weakness creeping in. So if we look at the momentum here, the CAD is not appearing strongly bullish against the dollar, and it is even more bearish than the euro, or you can say euro is less bullish, but the CAD is even less bullish against the dollar. So even if we consider this hourly charting formation with this formation of higher highs, but this low is lower than the prior swing low, so that reverses the charting scale, and we have to start looking for these opportunities to go short from the longer term perspective. But immediately speaking, the USDCAD is not looking the instrument which can be given the preference or which should be shortlisted for going further short in this USDCAD. Instead of that, we can keep an eye on the signs emerging in the market whenever we will see that the dollar is now having seen the decline is consolidating and likely to reverse course. Then in that scenario, USD CAD is going to be the instrument to jump in and go for a long trade, as the CAD is the least bullish against the dollar. USDCHF is following the footsteps of its European peers. So for CHF also, today's gains have been substantial. If we simply look at the hourly charting formation, it has declined substantially with gains of more than 1 percentage point. So on that count, I think it is almost rivaling the GBP in its appreciation against the dollar. Let's look at the timeline and compare it with the GBP's timeline. For the GBP, the immediate swing high was at 14 GMT. After that, it came in here. For USDCHF, let's look at it. It was little earlier and then came in this jump again of around half a percentage point. For GBP, the increase is also similar but a little more higher. So I think there is not much of a difference in terms of these strengths, but increased volatility and also lower spread give GBP slight advantage because GBP tends to be more volatile than the USDCHF, and as trader we prefer to trade with the volatile instrument. So on that count, maybe GBP can be given the preference, but there is not much of a difference in terms of the strength of this bullish momentum against the dollar, and it is of course much more bullish compared to the euro, AUD USD, or even NZDUSD for that matter. Let's see what's the story for USD JPY. Oh, JPY is declining and declining in today's session. Earlier in the day, there was this sharp move on the higher side, with it clocking the gains of around 300 pips. But all those gains evaporated, and here we have renewed selling pressure, putting it pretty much close to this immediate swing low. And if it doesn't really find any support, and if it continues to decline, I think we are pretty much likely to see it moving towards 127 levels or even crashing below that in coming hours, or you can say in next couple of days. That possibility, that probability is quite strong. So here, even after this substantial decline of around 350 pips, I am not really the person who would advise any sort of trying to catch the falling knife kind of strategy here in USD JPY. Rather than that, we will have to allow it some more time, and maybe after that, even fresh trades can be taken. But right now, after this substantial decline already in place, it becomes much more difficult. And if we look at this momentum for the USD JPY, apparently it is even stronger compared to the GBPUSD also. So even though this prior move was there, still the USD JPY has also reversed course and gone on to decline below that. And if we simply look at this immediate decline, it is quite substantial in percentage terms as well. So the JPY is apparently the strongest of the major currency of all the major currencies heading into the US session. So in Asian trading session, it was one of the most bearish currency against the dollar. but in the European trading session it has reversed course and has emerged as the most bullish currency against the dollar, and same thing I think is likely to prevail in the North American trading session also. But here we do have to be cautious, and after this substantial decline it becomes much difficult for us to find a opportunity with decent risk reward ratio, because even if we want to go short and if we go for a trade straight away, it is going to be having a very large risk because the immediate swing high is far away. So that much risk I am not really going to advise getting in for a single trade. Rather, it is better to sit on the sidelines and maybe as things consolidate and we if we don't really see any reversal of course, and if the momentum still remains with major currencies trading against the dollar, then in that scenario, USDJPY can be one of the first preference for any trade to be taken in this continuing bearish trend for the USDJPY. So that's the assessment for the currency segment. Now let's turn our attention to the equity side. For the equities, the gains are quite substantial in today's session. As the North American trading session is going to get underway, we have this increased volatility. I will have to zoom in the chart so that we can read the values in a better manner. Now, if we consider this price formation for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it is pretty much similar, and the same thing has applied to the USDJPY as well as this major equity indices for last couple of days, that we have seen similar trajectory for the currencies trading against the dollar and equity indices as well. So now that the dollar is on the back foot, we are seeing the bullish momentum in the US equities as well, in line with the bullish tendency in major currencies trading against the dollar. Let's consider the charting for last couple of days. So in today's session, it seems to be holding closer to yesterday's retracement level. There was substantial decline in yesterday's session in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and if we look at the other equity indices, those were not really affected that much. Even in yesterday's session, I had talked about this relative strength and weaknesses of these major equity indices, and Nasdaq was the clear-cut choice for last session also. So if you had gone in for a long trade in Nasdaq, you would have ended up in money, and as though wasn't really a choice for a long trade. If you had simply avoided it, then you would have avoided these losses as well. So it becomes very important for us to have this relative analysis done, so that even if the price formation is pointing towards the same trajectory, if apparently we are seeing the different instruments trading in the same direction, but if we get our relative assessment right and if we go with the best possible combination of the of with the instrument which is offering us the best momentum, we are likely to have higher probability of making money than losing money. So if we consider the price formation for the Dow Jones in today's session, it is almost going sideways. It is not really going anywhere. It is trading in this range of around 150 points. And let's see the price formation of S&P 500. S&P 500 in today's session also is having a better momentum on the buy side compared to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So same thing I think is likely to prevail in today's session also, where the preference for any long trade to be taken is to be given to Nasdaq and then S&P 500 and then DOE, but DOE is not the instrument I would suggest going long in today's session. It is simply consolidating after steep decline in yesterday's session. So here we have these two equity indices for the US which are looking much better placed, the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. So as long as this formation holds with the higher highs and higher lows intact, we can be hopeful of the continuation of this trajectory and try our chances in the Nasdaq while avoiding any kind of long trade in the Dow, at least for next couple of hours till more clarity emerges. So that's my assessment looking at the price formation of the future derivatives for the key equity indices of the United States. And before we wrap up the session, let's take a cursory look, a glance you can say, on the equity indices for the Europe. Here the DAX is also following this consolidation with bullish bias, and FTSE 100. Let's see what's the story for FTSE 100. FTSE 100 is also consolidating with this slightly bullish bias. So not much has happened in this session on the equity front. The volatility has been limited, and these instruments more or less haven't really gone anywhere. They have simply consolidated in this priorly defined range. So we also have to be cautious while going for a trade in the North American trading session. But given the trajectory appearing much more bullish for the Nasdaq compared to all other equity indices, in today's session also Nasdaq stands as a clear choice for any trade to be taken on the long side in today's session. So that's my assessment looking at this trajectory of the equity indices. Prior to that, we also saw the price formation for the major currencies, and there the clear winner was the JPY, followed closely by GBP and the CHF, which are bullish against the dollar, and CAD was one of the least bullish currency against the dollar. So whenever you want to go for any trade, even as per your own trading criterion, you can always keep this assessment in mind for the correlational aspect and go for the instrument which is offering the best possible choice in the direction of your choice. So that's all from my side. If any of you have any query or any idea to share, do write to me in the feedback, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. Thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous, profitable day ahead. See you next time around at the same time tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.